Good afternoon. The Senate Committee on Natural Resources will now come to order. Will the Secretary please call roll?
Senator Flores. Present. Senator Hansen. Here. Senator Goycochea. Senator Pazina. Present. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you so much. Please note that we do have all 5 members present, so we absolutely have a quorum. And before we begin, we'll provide some general housekeeping reminders. Please do silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Otherwise, Senator Hansen will come down and answer your calls for the rest of the hearing. The public is advised that during meetings, legislators and staff are using laptops to view bills and exhibits and not for personal reasons. We're trying to be as paper-free as possible, and please don't view this as a sign of inattention or disrespect. Please note that we require everyone to submit exhibits in an electronic format the day prior to the meeting. A few reminders about testifying in front of the committee. Please sign in at the table by the door, and do give the committee secretary your business card if you have one prior to testifying. Even if you're not testifying, you may want to sign in so that there's a record of who's interested in a particular bill in case the committee needs to contact you at a later date. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name and affiliation, if any, for the record. Do spell your name as well, and then turn the microphone off each time you're done speaking. If you have any handouts for the committee, you're asked to provide 10 hard copies to the committee secretary for use by the public. We'll be taking public comment at the end of each meeting. Please do recall that when we do take public comment, it can't have anything to do with the bills that were discussed during the hearings. We ask that you provide testimony at the time of the hearings. We'll be limiting public comment to 2 minutes per person to ensure that everyone gets the opportunity to speak. And please feel free to provide any additional comments in writing to the committee secretary so that they may be added to the record. And that goes when you're testifying as well. Please feel free to add any additional comments or any comments that you'd like to the committee secretary, and they'd be happy to add those to the record. On another note, I would also like to thank the exceptional and conservation-friendly, just awe-inspiring bill hearing on water 100% of the time, it feels like this year, Committee on Natural Resources. The members have just been amazing. I feel so lucky to work with them every day. And we've had now for 20-some years on the Natural Resources Committee, Senator Goycochea, and this is his last year on the Natural Resources Committee, and he will be missed greatly, as well as his water knowledge. We'd like to thank the phenomenal staff from Ms. Keller, Ms. Sturdivant, Ms. Kennedy, Ms. Dittler, Paige, all of you, just for all of the hard work you've done. Cameron McClemens all year long. It is gift day, as you might have noticed here, and we're thanking our hardworking committee and staff for all the great work they do all year round. So thank you so much. And with that, we are going to open up with a work session today. So our first order of business will be holding a work session on a few bills that have been previously heard by the committee. We'd like to remind everyone that we'll not be taking testimony at the work session. However, we will call someone forward as necessary if we do have any questions from the committee. And I will hand it over to Ms. Keller to start the work session.
Thank you, Chair Pazina. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. The bills for consideration by the committee today are summarized in the work session documents, and these documents are available on the legislature's website, Nellis. And the first bill for the committee's consideration is Assembly Bill 19, sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources on behalf of the Division of Water Resources, and it was heard by this committee on April 20th. Assembly Bill 19 expands entities eligible to apply for grants from the Channel Clearance, Maintenance, Restoration, Surveying, and Monumenting Program. The bill also authorizes an officer to include tribal governments in the entities eligible. The bill also authorizes an officer or employee of a tribal government to apply for appointment as a state water rights surveyor, regardless of whether the officer or employee is a professional engineer or professional land surveyor. But any certificate issued must include a restriction limiting those officers or employees to work performed for the tribal government. And there were no amendments proposed for this measure.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keller. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, seeing no questions, I will entertain a motion to do pass. So moved. We have a motion from Vice Chair Scheibel. Do we have a second? A second from Senator Goycochea. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Great. This motion carries on Assembly Bill 19, and we will assign the floor statement. Senator Gokachia, are you okay with that floor statement? Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Ms. Keller, back to you.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 131 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Cohen and others and was heard by this committee on April 27th. Assembly Bill 131 creates the Urban and Community Forestry Program within the Division of Forestry of the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to promote, create, improve, and maintain urban and community forests in the state. The bill sets forth duties of the state forester fire warden to administer the program and authorizes them to establish a program to distribute grants for the support and advancement of urban and community forestry, and there were no amendments proposed.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, great. Seeing no questions, I will entertain a motion to do pass. We have a motion from our vice chair. Do we have a second? We have a second from Senator Flores. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries, and we will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Cohen. Oh, I'm so sorry. Clearly, I'm living in the past when we were doing this in the Senate. Vice Chair Scheibel, great point, and you are going to get the floor statement on that. All right. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And it's clearly time for me to take a nap.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 162, the first reprint, was sponsored by Assemblywoman Gorlow and others and was heard by this committee on May 4th. Assembly Bill 162 lists certain permissible uses of neonicotinoid pesticides, prohibits the purchase or use of these pesticides on plants not grown for commercial agricultural purposes, and limits the use of neonic pesticides to those who possess a certificate of commercial agricultural use from the State Department of Agriculture, and no amendments were proposed.
Look at all these bills with no amendments. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, seeing no questions, do we have a motion? Oh, excuse me, Senator Gokachia.
I probably should have let you go ahead and move to the motion on this, but I'm still concerned about the bill, although I'm very sympathetic about, the homeowners that are using neonics, and not truly regulated. My concern with the bill is the fact that you can be a restricted use applicator and can't buy neonics that are available over the counter. So until the EPA actually gets some restrictions in there and makes neonics a restricted chemical pesticide, I just can't support the bill. The bottom line is, if you are a certified applicator and a restricted use applicator, the only time you can use this is on agriculture, and truly that isn't how that restrictive license works. So I don't like that language, and so I will be opposing the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing no questions, we are going to entertain a motion to do pass. So moved. Okay, we have a motion from the vice chair. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second from Senator Flores. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Yeah. Senator Hansen?
Yeah, this is the correct time. We got to, even though Pete's been here all those years, this is when we're supposed to discuss it. Like I told you, I'm going to vote to get the bill out of committee. I share the same concerns. We have a 1 or 2 hour hearing. Yeah, we find out that this stuff actually has been being reviewed by the EPA, federal agency for years, and they haven't come to the same conclusion we have in a couple hours worth of hearing. So, and then on the bee angle, I talked to my brother, who's a beekeeper, and he said that they have no issues with this as far as bees go, that some kind of mites that cause the problem. And then when J.J. Gokichia, the head of Ags, came up and testified, he said the beekeepers are actually using these things to help prevent the spread of the mites in the bee colonies. So I am going to support it now, but just having us as a state legislative body with a very limited understanding of these things, pass things that have national repercussions potentially, I'm just uncomfortable with that. But I am going to vote for it to get out of committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Hansen. All right, any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion carries. And we will assign the floor statement to Senator Flores. All right, thank you so much. And I'm sure if there's any further discussion you'd like to have with the sponsor, the fabulous Assemblywoman, she would be happy to discuss with you as well. All right, thank you so much. With that, we're going to now open our hearings, and we will start with the hearing for Assembly Bill 424, revising provisions relating to the issuance of bonds for environmental improvement projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. I see the sponsor's already at the table to give the presentation. Thank you so much. And with that, proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm Charlie Donahue, and I serve as the administrator for the Division of State Lands. In the Assembly, I had Assemblywoman Cohen at my side kicking this off, but I'm here alone, and I'm very comfortable with that. So it's a pleasure to present Assembly Bill 424 this afternoon. Assembly Bill 424 provides for the issuance of $13 million in general obligation bond authority for the continuation of the Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program, commonly referred to as the EIP. I would like to thank the Lake Tahoe Interim Committee for sponsoring this important legislation. The Division of State Lands has been the lead coordinating agency for the Nevada share of the EIP since 1999, and Nevada's participation in the EIP continues to be a success. The EIP is a well-coordinated partnership of federal, state, and local agencies, the Washoe Tribe, and the private sector. The partnership carries out projects to protect, and improve the Lake Tahoe environment, and has become a national model for collaborative leadership. Nevada is a key member whose commitment to the EIP has funded 170 projects in focus areas of watersheds, habitat and water quality, forest management, invasive species, and recreation. The EIP is the primary program to achieve environmental gains in the Lake Tahoe Basin. A significant amount of this work is coordinated through the Nevada Tahoe Resource Team, the state team assembled to carry out this program with representatives from the Division of State Lands, Division of State Parks, Division of Forestry, and the Department of Wildlife. The team implements projects directly as well as awards grants to EIP participating agencies. These have recently included water quality projects being implemented by Washoe County and Incline Village, as well as projects at Marla Bay, Cave Rock, and Kale Drive implemented by the Nevada Tahoe Conservation District. These are critical capital improvement infrastructure projects that capture stormwater and treat fine sediment particles that are known to impact Lake Tahoe clarity. As the agency has done in many of previous legislative sessions since the start of the EIP, the Division of State Lands is requesting bond authority for the next round of Nevada's projects. Specifically, Assembly Bill 424 authorizes the sale of $13 million in general obligation bonds for the continuation of EIP projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. The activities listed in Assembly Bill 424 will continue to focus on the main areas of improving water quality infrastructure, continue forest health improvements to reduce the risk of wildfire, improve habitat, and improve state-owned recreational facilities at Lake Tahoe. A portion of this request will also be used to address some of the recreational transportation challenges along SR 28 corridor with our basin partners, including TRPA, the Tahoe Transportation District, as well as NDOT. In addition to improving the Lake Tahoe environment, these are active capital improvement projects that contribute to a strong local economy. State bonds are often used to leverage local match or federal awards, as in recent example where the team secured a SNPLMA award of $1.3 million for hazardous fuel reduction work around Marlette Lake. Finally, Assembly Bill 424 addresses a concern that the Treasurer's Office had regarding access to interest that the bonds generate. Prior legislation was not explicit, and the interest revenue generated from the bonds in excess of legislative authority could be used for the program. Section 4 through 6 of the bill specifically address the issue and will enable the Treasurer to make these funds available for the benefit of the Nevada EIP. Passage of Assembly Bill 424 allows the state to build upon the success of our past projects, continue moving forward with our EIP partners, and protecting and restoring the Lake Tahoe Basin. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Do we have any questions from the committee? Well, it looks like you explained everything very well. Also, I understand this is a bill that comes before us every year, and we really appreciate you coming back solo this time around. We'll have you go ahead and step back from the table, and with that, we will welcome testimony in support of Assembly Bill 424.
Good afternoon, Devin Middlebrook with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, here to express our support for AB 424 and continued support by the state of Nevada for the Environmental Improvement Program. I think Mr. Donahue did a great job of explaining the program and the importance it has for not only Tahoe's environment, but our economy, which is extremely linked to the value of our environment. So I want to express our support for the bill and our gratitude for the state's continued support of Lake Tahoe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. For the record, my name is Steve Walker. I'm representing Douglas County. Douglas County is in full support of the EIP program as it has maintained lake clarity and in some years improved it. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Christy Cabrera-Georgeson, Deputy Director of the Nevada Conservation League. We're here in support of AB 424. This funding is critical for projects that will enhance forest health, reduce wildfire threat, prevent the spread of invasive species, protect water quality, and promote recreation. We urge the committee's support. Thank you.
My name is Kennedy McKinney, for the record, representing the League to Save Lake Tahoe, here in support of AB 424 and its goal to carry out critical environmental improvement projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. As you may know, Lake Tahoe is a beautiful and unique natural resource that attracts millions of visitors each year. However, it's facing significant environmental challenges, including water pollution, invasive species, and erosion. These issues threaten not only the health of Lake Tahoe, but also the economic well-being of the surrounding communities. This bill will provide the necessary funding to carry out critical environmental improvement projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. These projects include efforts to reduce the amount of sediment and nutrients entering the lake, restoring stream habitats for fish and wildlife, and preventing the spread of invasive species. By investing in these projects, we can ensure that Lake Tahoe remains a healthy and vibrant natural resource for generations to come. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Carl Hasty. I'm the district manager for the Tahoe Transportation District. So I express my support, our support for this bill and for the bonds. Nevada plays a critical role in being a partner in this program which remains a seminal one for Tahoe and has done a lot of good work and has much good work to complete. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. BPS, do we have anyone on the phones who'd like to testify in support on Assembly Bill 424?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 424, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. And seeing no one else coming to the front in support on AB 424, we will move to opposition of Assembly Bill 424. BPS, is there anyone on the phones in opposition of Assembly Bill 424?
If you would like to testify in opposition to AB 424, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Learnhardt from Zephyr Cove. Dear Assembly, every visitor agrees that Tahoe is a special place and needs to be preserved. But before you approve more money to fund ill-defined DRPA and TTD projects, it is essential to obtain a basin-wide comprehensive assessment of the needs. In the last several years, the tourist capacity, wildfires, and the recent extreme winter have pushed Tahoe to the brink. Several travel magazines, photos, and newspapers have called out the damage due to over-tourism it is doing to the basin. Yet the agency entrusted with preventing this damage, DRPA and TTD, have all but turned a blind eye to the problem. They resist the gathering of data and facts, such as evacuation plans, traffic congestion, data, and traffic safety issues. They have done a 180-degree turn in their objective to prevent greed to exploit Tahoe's natural beauty, and they're approving and encouraging large multifamily housing projects, not to reduce the local housing shortage, but to attract more tourists who can afford apartments costing $2.5 million and upwards. Do not blindly approve this bill. Money is not the solution to Tahoe's problem alone. A reassessment on how and who should manage Tahoe is the only way to go forward. Thank you for your attention.
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Looks like we have someone here in neutral on AB 424.
Thank you, Chair Pizzino, Vice Chair Scheibel. Members of the Senate Natural Resources Committee, my name is Wesley Harper, W-E-S-L-E-Y-H-A-R-P-E-R, and I represent the Kingsbury General Improvement District. On behalf of its chair and trustees, I would like to offer some perspective on the implication of some environmental improvement projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. First and foremost, Kingsbury GID is appreciative of the state and federal environmental efforts and is supportive of the state's commitment to protect the basin. Unintended consequences of prior programs have unfortunately created a financial strain on Kingsbury and its residents. Programs designed to prevent overdevelopment purchased a significant number of undeveloped lots that had already been outfitted with water, sewer, and road infrastructure, but then kept those lots vacant. This has left Kingsbury with a legacy of stranded infrastructure that was designed and installed for these lots, but is now not contributing and not performing. These lots, however, must be maintained at Kingsbury's expense. Unlike an unbuilt private lot, these are public, and therefore they are exempt from property tax. So Kingsbury receives no revenue for their maintenance. Beyond the roads, maintenance includes stormwater management, fire hydrants, and fire protection. Kingsbury is maintaining about 150 of these lots, which equates to more than $25,000 per month of lost utility revenue and $85,000 per year of lost property tax revenue. Again, Kingsbury appreciates the state's commitment to protect the basin, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair.
All right, do we have anyone else here in Carson City in neutral? BPS, what about the phones?
If you would like to testify in neutral for AB 424, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Great, thank you so much. Would you like to come up and give any closing statements? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Charlie Donahue, Administrator for the Division of State Lands again. I just wanted to say thank you for hearing this bill. I would appreciate your support, and I would assume that majority of the residents in the basin would appreciate that support as well. And I just want to assure the committee I will get with Mr. Harper and ferret out what his concerns are.
Thank you so much, Mr. Donahue. And with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 424. And before we open the hearing on Assembly Concurrent Resolution 5, I did want to make one quick change on floor statements. Ms. Keller, we are going to have Assemblyman Flores give the floor statement on AB 131, and we are going to assign the floor statement on AB 162 on neonicotinoid pesticides to Vice Chair Scheibel. So just an update there. And with that, we will now open the hearing on Assembly Concurrent Resolution 5, expressing support for the Lake Tahoe Transportation Action Plan. And with that, when our presenters are ready, go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Chevalier. That's Kimberly Chevalier, Chevallier. I'm the new Deputy Director at the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I just accepted this position back in March, and I serve alongside our Executive Director, Julie Reagan. and I am here today with our Government Affairs Manager, Devin Middlebrook. So today I'm going to walk you through our work with the Nevada and the Committee for the Review and Oversight of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and the Marlette Lake Water System to address transportation challenges at Lake Tahoe. Okay, is this slide up over there? Okay, perfect. So just to give you a little short background on Tahoe, Tahoe is a small town with big transportation challenges. We've got 55,000 residents, 15 million annual visitors, and we surround a $5 billion annual economy. And Administrator Charlie Donahue talked about our environmental improvement program in Tahoe. 25 years strong, 80 partners strong. We've completed over 700 projects since 1997, transportation being a major focus area of the EIP, and it supports 1,700 jobs every year. And today we're here to speak with you about the Lake Tahoe Regional Transportation Plan, and I want to highlight the main goals of that plan: to reduce congestion, preserve our environment. As you know, our Tahoe transportation system is inextricably linked to preserving our lake clarity, safety of our visiting and resident community, equitable public access, economic development to support our jobs and workforce in Lake Tahoe, and climate resilience. And I'm going to hand it over to Devin Middlebrook to talk about the Transportation Action Plan and the resolution in front of you today.
Thank you, Devin Middlebrook, TRPA for the record. We've been working with this legislative body for a number of years on addressing Tahoe's transportation challenges that my colleague just pointed out. Most recently, in the last session in 2021, the legislature adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution 8, which called for us working with the state and with many of our partners to address those transportation challenges at Tahoe in terms of identifying priority projects, their costs and benefits to the lake, how those projects address climate change, any other issues in terms of equitable access and other barriers to effectively implementing that transportation system. And then since 2017, both states have convened a bi-state consultation on transportation in order to fully implement the Regional Transportation Plan. The fruits of this labor were the Lake Tahoe Transportation Action Plan, which the resolution before you today in ACR 5 supports, and really the cornerstone of this is a shared funding commitment. The Regional Transportation Plan is a 20-year vision for transportation in the Tahoe Basin and has about a $20 million per year funding gap to fully implement that plan. And the funding strategy that we came up with is dubbed 777, where each of the partners in the different sectors, federal, state, and local, are responsible for meeting a funding gap of $7 million per year to fund those unfunded priority projects. The state of Nevada's funding commitment for that is split 1/3, 2/3 with the state of California for $2.5 million per year. Through that process, we developed a series of priority projects, and you can see on this map a lot of those Nevada projects. I really want to highlight the State Route 28 Recreation Corridor. This includes beautiful Nevada state parks like Spooner Summit and Sand Harbor, which see about 1/3 of the state's total state parks visitation statewide. So really a high priority area for not only public access for the residents of Nevada, but also economic development opportunities for the local businesses. So how do all these pieces fit together? You have the overarching regional transportation plan, which has the 20-year vision for transportation at Lake Tahoe. Through the bi-state consultation on transportation, the states came together and really set around those priority projects and goals for implementing the regional transportation plan. The result of that was the Transportation Action Plan and 777 strategy. This really is that next step towards implementing those priority projects, and those priority projects were selected through stakeholder and public engagement, and those represent the highest priority projects for the region, and any money that comes from the state towards their 777 contribution will either come through our agency, the Tahoe Transportation District, the state of Nevada, or any number of our local funding and implementation partners. Oversight for these projects and really the accountability for implementing the projects comes through this body, in addition to many of the other state of California and federal bodies that we report to. And we measure progress through the Regional Transportation Plan has many goals in terms of reducing congestion, increasing safety, and supporting the infrastructure. So there's many performance measure targets that all of these plans roll up into. So before you today with ACR 5 expressing support for the Lake Tahoe Transportation Action Plan, We're asking for this resolution in response to the previous session's SCR 8 to express support for the action plan and express support for funding high-priority transportation projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. And this session, there are several different actions that this body will be considering that support that. You just heard from the state on AB 424, part of those bond funds will contribute towards the state share of the 777. There's also a Conserve Nevada bond program this session that will contribute to that. And then there's also direct budget asked to support Tahoe Transportation District's operations, state parks, and then continued support from the state for new and competitive grant funding programs. So with that, we'll open it to this committee for any questions.
Thank you so much. And I want to apologize as well. It's that time of session where people are running out for hearings. Please know it's not a sign that our committee members are not incredibly interested in what you have to share in the testimony we have. It's just that time of year where they are running out to hearings as well. Do we have any questions from the committee? Senator Hansen, I would have never guessed.
Well, we're Republicans. We don't have any bills that are going anywhere, so we get stuck in committee, but that's another story. Quagga mussels. Do you guys? I got some questions for you on the lake itself, because my great-grandfather actually bought property at Kings Beach in the 1950s, and as a child, spent my summers a lot of days at Lake Tahoe, and I watched that clarity change through the years. But yeah, quagga mussels. Overall clarity, we're spending a ton of money. What have been the positive results? Where, I know that they use the dinner plate scale and all that. Where are we today?
Absolutely. Devin Middlebrook with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency for the record, through you, Chair, to the Senator. Aquatic invasive species are definitely a top priority of the Environmental Improvement Program. As you called out, the quagga mussels was about 10 years ago now when those were first discovered in Lake Mead. That really raised the alarm for us at Tahoe. We're lucky enough that we don't have quagga mussels. We do have other invasive weeds and Asian clams in the lake that affect lake clarity. So we sprung into action and created our aquatic invasive species inspection program, where every boat that comes into the lake needs to be inspected and make sure it's clean before it goes into the lake. And part of the 28 corridor is a permanent aquatic invasive species inspection station, so we can increase our customer service and the speed at which we can inspect those boats and get people out on the lake, enjoying the lake. And then, Ms. Chevalier, do you want to tackle the clarity question?
Sure. For the record, Kimberly Chevalier with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Thank you for the question. You may have seen the latest press release with, we enjoyed pretty great clarity this year with the increase of about 10 feet from the prior year. This is due to a lot of work with the Environmental Improvement Program. We have many different priorities within the EIP to reduce fine sediment and pollutant loads into the lake. The local jurisdictions take a lot of the responsibility to do so and have met the last two milestones that they have laid out with the TMDL, the total maximum daily load. So we're making progress there, and we're continuing to look with the Tahoe Science Advisory Council on ways we can continue progress with changing climate, changing ecosystem.
Okay, one more weird one for you. Crayfish, officially crawdads in my day. I didn't realize they weren't native to the basin, and I heard that they were actually, some have pointed the finger at them for part of the decline in the clarity of the lake. Can you update me on that?
Yeah, Devin Middlebrook, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency again. Yes, crayfish were a little bit of a gray area. They're considered an invasive species, but they were introduced back in the day to help feed the sport fishing stock. So crayfish definitely are part of the factor that is the whole biome of the lake. And they eat little critters at the bottom of the lake, native critters, and poop in the water that leads to nutrient loading. So they're definitely one of those target species that we're exploring ways to reduce their numbers. I know in years past there have been commercial operations that have tried to capitalize and have a business focus on reducing their impact on the lake at the same time creating Tahoe crawfish, and there used to be crawdad festivals at the lake where you could enjoy them. So it's definitely one of those species among many other that we're looking at controlling to return the lake to a more natural food web and ecosystem to support lake clarity.
That's it. I didn't realize you guys are actually attempting to. That's quite a project, trying to eliminate crawdads. Last thought. Logging. I mean, logging at one time was the industry, as go back to Comstock Lode, the whole mountains were basically denuded. Yeah, when I was a kid in the early 60s, the clarity of the lake was remarkably, probably the best it's been, at least in a certain number of years. Yet there had to be incredible amounts of erosion and so forth during that same window of time. Why, if Lake Tahoe's clarity was able to stay so nice for so many years, in spite of that really amazing amount of logging and deforestation of those whole ranges, why is it now that it seems like little tiny amounts of sediments getting into the lake have affected the clarity so much? Is it actually the erosion, or is it the invasive species, crawdad poop, or whatever? I mean, you guys are the experts, and I don't get to talk to experts on this too often, so I'm kind of wondering why in the past did the lake stay so clear in spite of the incredible environmental degradation, versus today, relatively small amounts seem to be getting in the lake, comparatively speaking, yet the clarity levels have been declining.
Yeah, Devin Middlebrook, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, for the record. Absolutely, I think your knowledge of Tahoe and the history of Tahoe is why we're here today. As you noted, during the Comstock era and the silver mining in Nevada, Tahoe was clear cut to support Virginia City, and that did have a big impact on the lake in terms of erosion. And once that period was done, all the forest grew back, and it grew back overly dense, and all of the trees are the same age, so it's not that same mix of healthy forest. While that was a major impact to the lake, it was also on the time scale of the environment. It was a relatively short period where they came, they cut down all the trees, they left. What we have today is a situation for the last 40 or 50 years. We've had continuous development throughout the region, and often before our agency was founded, that development was done in wetlands and marshes and really built over that natural filtration system. So what we have is a more continuous impact. About 70% of the pollutants that are reaching the lake that are affecting lake clarity come from our urban environment, and our regional transportation plan and regional plan really aim to remove that legacy development out of those sensitive areas and restore them. For example, many basin partners have restored or are working to restore the Upper Truckee River and Marsh system, which is the largest meadow system in the entire Sierra Nevada mountain range, and that is the #1 source to pollutants in the lake. So through removing that legacy development and restoring those areas, we're really trying to reverse that. But again, it is more of a continuous impact, and that's why the regional transportation plan and the action plan are so important, because it gets people out of their vehicles, gets those pollutant loads off of the roads, and still allows people to enjoy it. And then once the pollutants make it into the lake, there's other dynamics. We just had many years of drought where the lake level was low, and this year the lake's been up 4 or 5 feet from all the rain we received. So you do get somewhat of a flush of pollutants reaching the lake, and then with warming temperatures, that is affecting lake dynamics as well. So it is definitely an interwoven system that our environmental improvement program has many different focus areas to kind of tackle each one of those interconnected pieces.
Okay, last question, I promise, Madam Chair. The clarity of the lake trend-wise, obviously, when you have a big influx of water like this year, it tends to make it clearer. But over the last, since when this really kicked into gear back in the early 70s, when the TRPA and all the restrictions on growth and everything kicked into gear, what is the trend line as far as clarity of the lake measured by plates, or however, the dinner plates? Are you guys winning the fight to make it clear again? I mean, or are we just treading water?
Yeah, absolutely. Devin Middlebrook, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, for the record. Yeah, if we had the chart of the trend lines you had historically, as you mentioned, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, nearly 100 feet of clarity in the lake, and that rapidly, if clarity is getting worse as I go up with my hand, rapidly got worse. And in the last 20 years, thanks to the Environmental Improvement Program, that trend line has really stabilized and dropped off and flattened. So we are making progress towards our goal of restoring clarity to its historic levels. And obviously you have those year-to-year fluctuations, but when you look over like a five-year trend, we are seeing improvements in lake clarity.
Very good, because it is one of the treasures of the world, let's face it, and we kind of have a tendency to love it to death, So glad to see you're on top of it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for the questions, and thank you for the very illuminating answers. Senator Gokachia, do you have any questions? No, ma'am. All right. With that, we'll have you both take a step back, and we will welcome any testimony in support of Assembly Concurrent Resolution 5. Please come to the seats in the front.
My name is Kennedy McKinney, for the record, representing the League to Save Lake Tahoe. We're here today in support of ACR 5, which supports the Lake Tahoe Transportation Action Plan. Our organization has been proud to participate in the Bi-State Working Group on Transportation for the last 6 years. This is a collaboration of public and private entities working to advance high-priority transportation solutions in the Lake Tahoe Basin. The transportation network is one of the biggest contributors to fine sediment pollution in the lake, and reducing vehicle miles traveled is key to keeping Tahoe blue. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Pazina, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, representing Washoe County. And I am here today in support of Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 5 as a resolution that our Board of County Commissioners has taken an official policy position of support for. You've heard the presentation. I won't go into all of the reasons why this is important. You heard that from the representatives of TRPA, and in the interest of time, I won't repeat it, but just say that we are very much in support of this. I think Senator Hansen, your question around clarity, and you heard from the representatives of the TRPA about how transportation impacts that clarity and the sediment that comes off of our roadways. And to the extent that this plan helps address that, certainly protecting the jewel of our state and indeed the world is important, and Washoe County is in full support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Carl Hasty, District Manager for the Tahoe Transportation District. The district is in support of ACR 5. Some of you may not be aware that the Bi-State Compact actually gives us the direction to deal with our transportation congestion and so on through multimodal means. We are not there, and we are prohibited actually from expanding highways, which is what happens in most communities if your traffic tends to grow. We cannot. So making Tahoe more pedestrian-friendly, more bike-friendly, integrating it with public transit and providing alternatives to folks to get there without their car, or to get around with their car, is the mission of transportation at Lake Tahoe. The first 25 years of the Environmental Improvement Program, appropriately, we're focusing on road retrofit for water quality and for the clarity of the lake. And I think now we're moving into the era of the next 25 years of focusing on getting much more of the multimodal system on the ground and at play. So this transportation plan fits in with that as a subset of the regional transportation plan. It's very important. We cannot keep people from traveling on state highways or federal highways, but we can provide alternatives for folks to get there. And as we watch our populations around us grow and come to Tahoe for their recreation pleasure, then that's our solution, is to do this. Unfortunately, it happens more slowly than we would like, and this is something that we're all working on in the region to accelerate, to get these kinds of improvements and services available to folks in the basin and outside the basin so they can get in and around the lake and not have as much of an impact. So with that, again, I express our support for ACR 5. Thank you.
Thank you so much. BPS, do we have anyone on the phone lines in support of ACR 5?
If you would like to testify in support of ACR 5, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. With that, we will close testimony in support and open testimony in opposition of Assembly Concurrent Resolution 5, and ask that anyone who'd like to testify in opposition please come to the table.
Okay, I guess I'm the only one. I'm Robert Byron, that's B-Y-R-E-N, and I live along the east shore of Lake Tahoe. I've come to voice my opposition to ACR 5, a resolution affirming Lake Tahoe Transportation Plan. Specifically, that plan calls for the adoption of NDOT's US 50 East Shore Corridor Management Plan, or CMP, which is now in revision. But it still includes adding dedicated multi-use bike lanes at the expense of 2 traffic lanes, which are essential to the community where I live. For the record, I have attended and interacted with the CMP study team at all 4 public hearings and listening tours, and it's clear to me that the study team has either ignored or given lip service to several major issues. These are my concerns. First is the additional congestion caused by the reduction in number and width of north and southbound traffic lanes. Look, we are a destination resort with well over 15 million visiting each year, and a transient population that can reach 300,000 during the high seasons. And most of these visitors use Highway 50 as their main access and thoroughfare because they really have no alternative. FOTR has already no-listed Lake Tahoe as a desirable resort due to congestion. The CMP will only add to the severe traffic congestion in our community. Second is the evacuation problem should we experience a major wildfire within the Tahoe Basin. Third is the attendant air pollution, algae bloom-related lake clarity reduction caused by additional travel time, which are exacerbated by the frequent temperature inversions in Lake Tahoe. Fourth is the access problem for power, water, sewer, and road maintenance vehicles, with the shoulder essentially lost to these multi-use lanes. Fifth, the winter travel conditions in our alpine climate are unique in Nevada, given the large transient population at our 11 downhill ski resorts. And these create special safety needs and require road shoulders for snow clearance. Finally, bike safety. Because barriers are proposed to form these dedicated multi-use lanes, the high-speed road bikers will not choose to interact with pedestrians, strollers, lime scooters, and skateboarders. Rather, they will prefer to share the road with the cars and trucks. Now, with only one transportation lane in each direction and no shoulder, as proposed, the cars and trucks will be forced to pass the road biker by veering into the center lane, which creates several obvious safety problems. The better solution is to keep the 4 traffic lanes and create a proper Class 2 bike lane at the shoulder. For these reasons, the Nevada State Senate should oppose, not promote, the current CMP. And I thank you very much.
Hi, Ann Nichols, North Tahoe Preservation Alliance, 52-year resident at North Lake Tahoe, real estate broker, Nevada and California. I'm speaking in opposition to both bills, actually, because no matter how much money you spend on Lake Tahoe, as long as the TRPA keeps approving large-scale development, which is more people, more traffic, more, it's never going to work. And none of the 109 projects that are being proposed in this 777 plan, which no one knows anything about, they won't solve it. They're going to actually promote more visitation, more attractions, more people coming. So they're not dealing with the real problem. They're doing more bike trails but what we have is peak periods. We can't move. We're in real danger. TRPA is supposed to take care of our safety. So it's just wrong-headed. And what we need to do is go to the TRPA and say, listen, we want them to succeed, but as long as they decide to only approve luxury condominium developments with more, it's not going to work. And we really hope that you will take a hard look at these 109 projects. The public doesn't know they have to take care of 7 million of them a year, and they have no idea about the 777 plan. So really take a hard look. This is the TRPA, just funny. Their first initial budget was $320,000. Now it's $22.5 million. So it's a lot of dough going through. I want them to succeed, but they can't do it by promoting more luxury development. Thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you, members of the committee, for allowing me to address you. My name is Karen Beatty, and I'm a board member of the North Tahoe Preservation Alliance.
Can you please spell your name for us as well? Thank you.
Sure, it's Karinbeaty. My family moved here in 1965, so I appreciated your comments. I also remember the clarity of the lake then and what it was like to live in the community and be able to enjoy all those things that you were talking about, crawdads included. My objection to the relevant bill before you, ARC-5, is simply this. The Tahoe Regional Planning Agency is no longer following its original mandate and the intent of Congress. This was defined in the original materials, establishing the TRPA as, quote, establish an environmental standard necessary to maintain significant scenic, recreational, educational, scientific, or natural values of the region and to maintain public health and safety within the region," unquote. TRPA doesn't know and is not willing to learn what the actual carrying capacity of Lake Tahoe Basin is today. What this means is they do not know how many approved developments will affect Lake Tahoe clarity, Lake Tahoe Basin air quality, and how it will affect our ability to evacuate in a wildfire, and how it will impede traffic and degrade roads, and what it will do to the rural natural environment. Giving them more money without oversight is a mistake. As could be expected, TRPA has always been a lightning rod for controversy as it seeks to maintain a balance between environmentalists and developers or property owners seeking to make a profit from ownership. The wide range and scope of recently approved developments shows clearly that the members of TRPA no longer see themselves as environmental stewards, but instead are acting from the self-interests of big money developers. These groups have legal and PR teams backed by millions of dollars to overwhelm whatever good intentions the TRPA staff have. So before the TRPA approves projects, they must work and understand what the thresholds are and what the capacity is for Lake Tahoe if we are to keep it as beautiful as it is. So vote no on ARC 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you'll step back from the table, and we'll see if anyone else wants to come forward.
Good afternoon, Scott Teach, 43-year Tahoe resident.
Can you please spell your last name for us, Scott?
T as in Tom, I-E-C-H-E. It's on the sign-in sheet. Excuse my dark glasses and prepared statement. I just heard about this hearing about 6 hours ago when I was in Reno. So I'm opposed to the AB 424 and ACR 5 until the TRPA performs a Lake Tahoe Basin-wide supplemental cumulative environmental impact to the 2012 TRPA plan as connected with all past, current, and future public and major private projects, including all projects connected with the TRPA EIP since 2012. The current system, which allows inclusions of projects, including transportation projects determined to be environmental improvements, are often subjective and lack basin-wide cumulative environmental impact statements before inclusion. A supplemental EIS to the 2012 regional plan and additional environmental oversight of TRPA priorities is needed now more than ever, as TRPA and the TTD continue to aggressively move further and further away from protecting the natural resources of the Lake Tahoe Basin in favor of other self-determined priorities. This includes currently proposed and significant code changes to increased height, density, and coverage. This while failing to provide a basin-wide supplemental EIS in connection with incremental projects and code change approvals over the last 50 years. Close with a little ad lib. All these years in Tahoe, for decades, I was a staunch protector of the TRPA. That has changed. I can go back more than 10 years. I think it was about a dozen years ago when the late Mike Donahoe of South Lake Tahoe brought Asian clams to the TRPA board. They scoffed at him. Now they're the heroes. Do not give them this money carte blanche. It only emboldens the behavior. Thank you very much.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is David Thompson, Thompson. I've been a citizen of the state of Nevada since 1966 and lived here since then, except for 3 years serving my country in the Army. I now live in Glenbrook and take my life in my hands every time I pull out onto that Highway 50. By restricting it down one lane, you'll have a constant flow of traffic and never be able to pull out of Glenbrook at certain times of the day. And to me, this is a dangerous proposition. NDOT came down to make a presentation in Glenbrook, and it was advertised as a 15-minute presentation with a Q&A after that. They talked for an hour and left hurriedly without any questions and answers. And I can tell you their audience was completely opposed to the narrowing of that highway past Glenbrook. It's going to be a dangerous thing. It's going to cost a lot of lives. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you very much for your service. All right, do we have anyone else here who'd like to come to the table? And also BPS, do we have anyone on the phones who's in opposition of ACR 5?
Good afternoon, Chair Pazina and committee. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid, DeGraffenreid. I'm a 20-plus year resident of Douglas County and a regular user of Lake Tahoe's highways and trail systems as both a driver and a bicyclist. There may be good items in the Lake Tahoe 777 Transportation Action Plan, but there are also many serious issues with it, as has been pointed out by many local residents and stakeholders, both in this hearing and in the prior one. The transportation plan is designed to discourage vehicle traffic in the basin, but unless the plan takes reality into account rather than simply wishing vehicles would just go away, it's doomed to failure. In the Assembly hearing, Committeewoman Hanson asked why the shuttle service on the northeast portion of the lake was no longer running. It was pointed out later that this was because it didn't have sufficient ridership to be sustainable, often running with a maximum of 2 riders. Another issue is the desire to reduce Highway 50 to 2 lanes. As has been mentioned before, this actually worsens congestion rather than improving it. As a cyclist, although maybe not one of the high-speed ones referred to earlier, who uses Highways 50 and 28 regularly, I agree with the comments made earlier that cyclists will prefer to use the highway as opposed to endangering pedestrians on a multi-use path. But under this transportation plan, that will place me and other cyclists in greater danger on a greatly narrowed highway. Also, reducing a 4-lane highway to a 2-lane road greatly increases dangers during evacuation for residents and visitors alike. Please protect your local constituents and Tahoe residents, take a step back, and do not support the transportation plan via ACR 5 until the very real dangers that it causes have been resolved. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brett Tibbetts. I'm a 12-year resident of Cave Rock. The spelling on my name is Brett, B-R-E-T-T. Last name Tibbetts, T as in Tom, I-B-B as in boy, I-T-T-S. I am opposed to ACR 5 and the TRPA Lake Tahoe Transportation Plan, especially the plan to reduce much of the east shore of Highway 50 at the lake from 4 vehicle lanes to 2 vehicle lanes. The TRPA plan is the same plan that the town of Paradise, California and Caltrans implemented a short time before much of the town of Paradise, California burned to the ground. Instead of having 4 lanes to escape, the townspeople were left with only 2 lanes and people died as a result. Reducing Highway 50 from 4 lanes to 2 lanes will also create disasters for ambulances and fire trucks responding to emergencies. Highway 50 on the east and south shore of Lake Tahoe is very, very different from the other areas of the lake, as Highway 50 serves the lake's largest population by far, South Lake Tahoe, where over half of the lake population resides. And Highway 50 is largely the only way in and out, presenting an extreme importance for evacuations, emergencies, and fires. Unlike the TRPA's transportation, quote-unquote, equity notions, bicycles are not the equivalent of cars. At the lake, bicycles are mostly used for recreational purposes. People largely do not ride their bikes to the lake from the Bay Area. They put their bikes in their cars and drive to Lake Tahoe, then get their bikes out of their cars and ride them. I also must point out the TRPA's extreme hypocrisy in wanting to reduce roadway capacity at the lake. The TRPA is constantly approving large new projects that greatly add to vehicle trips at the lake. Projects like the new State Line Event Center, which has yet to open. This is a 6,000-seat venue. People will be driving to this venue, not biking or taking the bus. The TRPA is also going along with the plan to allow Barton Hospital to move the state line. This will create thousands of new vehicle trips as Barton's patient base is in South Lake Tahoe. Those of us on the Nevada side go to Carson Tahoe Hospital, not Barton. Please oppose this travesty of a plan. Please consider that if this bill is approved, responsibility will need to be taken if people die during an evacuation or other emergency scenario. Thank you. Elizabeth Learnhardt, Zephyr Cove. I used to live in California at the time when Paradise burnt. I will never forget November 15, 2018. It was equivalent to our 9/11 in Northern California. Within a short period of time, less than an hour, at 6 o'clock in the morning, 85 people burned in their cars trying to outrun the fire that overtook them and burned them to death. This happened because, like Mr. Tibbetts pointed out, the state of California and the local Butte County and the town of Paradise was stupid enough to accept $2 million to apply the rote diet to their only evacuation route. This plan, the 777 plan, will do the same thing to the east shore of Lake Tahoe. Highway 50 is the only four-lane road that goes in and out in the basin. This is not just the only evacuation route, giving the predominant winds from south-southwest or west that drives the fires towards us. It is also the only transient road that stays open during winter storms, as we've witnessed several times this winter. It is also the only road that will let wide loads and excavators and other heavy equipment into and out of the basin for their work. Please do not vote for this bill. It will circumvent the two-state compact that says, as Congress pointed out, that 2/3 of both states, California and Nevada, have to approve this 777 plan. This route is a circumvening of that requirement. It is not what the locals want. Thank you.
I would remind everyone who's testifying today that we don't use any disparaging comments or words during our testimony, and I thank everyone here in the room who has followed along with that, and would just remind anyone else who'd like to testify on the phone not to use any disparaging comments when speaking about anyone else. Also, per NRS statute 218 E.085, I have my vision's going and I need readers at the moment. However, but I would remind everyone as well that if you are testifying here, please make sure that it's of a factual basis, and we can always ask you for that information as well. With that, BPS, is there anyone else on the phone who would like to testify in opposition of ACR 5?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to testify in opposition of ACR 5? Okay, seeing no one get up, if there's anyone, we'll close testimony in opposition and open testimony in neutral of ACR 5. And if there's anyone who'd like to testify in neutral, we'd invite them to take one of the empty seats in front. And BPS, if you can check the phones for us as well. Thank you.
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
All right. With that, we would like to welcome Ms. Chevalier and Mr. Middlebrook back up if you'd like to give us any closing statements.
Thank you, Chair. Devin Middlebrook with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency for the record. As you saw here today with the amount of public comment we received, that everyone is very passionate about Lake Tahoe, and just want to point out that the Regional Transportation Plan and Action Plan share the same goals in mind that you heard from all of the commenters. Improving and enhancing safety, making sure people can safely evacuate during emergencies, reducing congestion and protecting the environment. These are the same goals that the Regional Transportation Plan has. So we all share that in common for wanting to do that for Lake Tahoe. The Tahoe region, through TRPA and our regional plan, also has some of the strictest growth caps in the region. So we're have for very long included strict growth caps on the region and managing growth. And the action plan does identify priority projects. In each of those projects, this action plan and the resolution is not approval of each of those individual projects. Those do still go through their own permitting and environmental analysis project and stakeholder input. And then we're continue to be committed to working with the public to address any concerns as projects and funding moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Chevalier, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I will just be brief and add that the Transportation Action Plan has been a product of years of collaboration with the state, with locals, with the private sector, with many different partners, and will continue to do so as we implement it going forward. And the action you're taking today with the resolution will be an important step in that. So thank you very much.
Thank you both so much. And I would just ask that you stay involved with the community, engaged in the community as this moves forward. Thank you very much. All right, with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Concurrent Resolution number 5 and move to our final order of business, which is public comment. As a reminder, public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. However, feel free to submit additional written comments to the secretary, and we will make sure that they're added to the record. Also, please be advised that any public comment today should not correspond in any way with AB 424 or ACR 5. Seeing no one racing to the front, BPS, do we have anyone on the phones who'd like to make public comment?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
All right, seeing no public comment, this meeting of Natural Resources is adjourned. We thank everyone so much for joining us today, and we will be back at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, same place.